That's what I thought. Advanced. Mono. Good. Hello, hello, everybody. Oh, I should change the title. Today's kind of a tips day, because I had a lot of questions earlier this week about tips. Can you guys hear me okay? Try not to have it be too loud. Oh yeah, it's a 30-second lag. I figured it out. Guess, yeah. Guess that title's fine. So it's kind of an accessories day, kind of a tips and tricks for accessories, like making wraps and things on like that. I don't have any prepared fancy avatars, but we have our normal avatars for the stream today. We're going to give it about 10 minutes. I currently only have 2 things on the docket that were specifically requested. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to go without my glasses. So if you guys want to see specific things, let me know while I adjust my webcam, because I don't know what it's doing. Slide myself over. Okay, cool. It's good. Yeah, I've turned it all the way up. Right now I have the gain pretty high for the microphone. Keep myself in the corner here. We were talking in the Discord just a minute ago about a shoulderless top, a cold shoulder top is kind of that, or a shoulderless top. I'll show you tricks for that so you can apply the friction, this little friction trick on your human avatars. Yay! Specifically for Sherna. How was GDC? Any good stories? GDC was really small. So actually, yeah, it's a good question. While we wait, GDC was quite small this year. A lot of people came up, were just asking what Marvelous Designer was. Because they didn't know about it really, but a lot of like their users used it. For example, like a lot of services that have online member created content. They're like, I have no idea what you guys are, but a lot of people use you. What are you? That was the trend for the weekend. For the week, actually, not weekend. And a couple of the Discord members came by to say hi. I didn't announce it on the Discord that we were going to be there, because we didn't know if we were really going to be there or not, just because of how the GDC planning was going with if we didn't know if it was going to happen or not. So I didn't really announce it anywhere except for I think Twitter, because we were already there, and I was like, oh, I'll put it on Twitter. But we had some of the Discord members stop by and say hi, and it was nice meeting them. What else? Any stories? That's really about it. I got to see some people I know while we were there at GDC. We mostly answered a lot of questions about just how to use Marvelous Designer. So I'm gonna go with the theme of those questions for this stream. GDC is a game developers conference, so it's or convention, but it's a convention kind of that's mostly used for networking. From my understanding of going to it only one time. And so you'll kind of network there. I think there was also Game Awards going on. Trying to think of anything else. Mostly we were stuck at our booth the whole time, answering a lot of questions. It got surprisingly busy for us. But yeah, there's no real fun, no real stories other than we had a big yellow booth. It was cool. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have any awesome stories. Sorry, Rosemary. Most of the time it was just like, yeah, you can use the software to make clothes. Here you go. By the way, we have, oh, and people didn't know about our YouTube channel, that we have like full YouTube tutorials. Because they've been using it forever, but they've never used the official tutorials or seen the streams, which was interesting to learn. What else happened with GDC? We had some swag. We had some stickers, which was a first. So hopefully we'll do more swag for future events, because that was fun. Stickers and I think a couple of pins. But I'm trying to think of anything else. Definitely had to explain the fit suit a lot and modular mode. So unfortunately no cool awesome stories. At least that I can share. I got to hang out with my friends from elementary school because they live in there and work for video game companies. So that was about it. I don't think of anything else. Yeah, it was really just doing a lot of demos. A lot of the stuff you guys, I tell again and again on here, which is the follower tutorials. Here's how you can simply simulate cloth in Marvelous Designer. That was the summary of the weekend. It was a really surprising number of people just didn't know what Marvelous Designer did, but they'd heard about it for years, which was interesting. Hi, Black Swan. So we're going to wait 4 more minutes, and then I will do our classic copy paste, and then we'll get into the stream. I'm trying to think of anything else. I guess I'll put a picture of our booth in the Discord. Let me do that now while we have time. I have to steal it from the Twitter account. Copy image. I'm throwing the image into off topic. There you go. And thank you to all of the users that did let us use their images from the community, because we reached out to quite a lot of you, and we have a little spotlight reel that we had put together. And so I think I can try to get that onto YouTube. I don't know if you guys want to see it, but it was just a reel of all of the artists, and a lot of people took photos of it. So if you get if you get messages, those of you who reached out to, if you get messages from people, it was because we specifically made sure to have your social media handles there. Trying to see what was there in the background, but yeah. So we have our booth. It had a lit up logo. It was kind of cool. It was definitely one of the fancier booths. Of course, my favorite part was the floor, because it had the cushioned floor for when you're standing for extended periods of time. I thought, as soon as we saw that, we're like, wow, this is so fancy. That was honestly like the funniest, like the most noted part was like, wow, your floor is so soft. But yeah, if you've worked retail and you've stood for a long time, it's like the entire floor was just that type of mat. we have one more minute, and then I will do the rigmarole that you all know, but some people might not. For those who are new, you may not know. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. For those of you who might not know, this is the Marvelous Designer official YouTube channel, and we do streams periodically. Normally it's every other Wednesday, but sometimes it's not, just because, for example, we were at GDC last week. So I'm going to be pasting some resource links into the chat here. So the first two links are a link to our official Discord channel, where I did post that image that we were referencing a minute ago, as well as our official website, where you can get the software and you can get a free 30-day trial, which I'm pretty sure it comes with a coupon as well, because a lot of people ask about coupons over the week. You get a coupon if you finish the full trial, and that's where you get your subscription, as well as our forums are on there too. For those of you in the future, the software I'm using is Marvelous Designer, which is the name of the channel. So if you're going to ask me what software I'm using, it's Marvelous Designer, and I will ignore your comments on the YouTube channel. So don't ask me what software we're using, please. For those of you who are on Twitch, I hate when, okay, there we go. For those of you who are on Twitch, we do let the video expire after whenever Twitch decides to let it expire. But on YouTube, we do keep it up in perpetuity as a reference, which is specifically why I'm doing requested tips today. So here is a link to our YouTube channel. For those of you who are already watching it on YouTube, you are already here and you are in the know. For those of you who are brand new to Marvelous Designer, here is a link to the playlist for our beginner tutorials. They are using the older UI. We are working on updating them, but it does take time. But if you are looking for best practices, the best method, just watch our free tutorials, because that's mostly how we would like train someone from the beginning, for example. So please use our tutorials. Most of the concepts are still applicable, just sometimes they're in the wrong spots, or we've moved something, which I try to update the description of the channel, like in the video, if they've been moved at the very least, until we have a full new one. And last but not least, it's just me on the stream today. So if you have any technical questions, please contact us on the support/contact tab on our website. It is much faster than trying to email us or trying to message us on social media asking for support on like Blender. I've seen that a couple times. If you're having technical problems specifically with Marvelous Designer, please just go to the support tab. It does have you log into your account, but the reason it does that is because then we can actually get past it and we can see the status of the account, all that stuff. Because if you just message us on like support at marvelousdesigner.com, the first question you're going to get is, what is your user ID? So it does make it faster. And that is it for the classic rigmarole here. I'm going to figure out how to put my OBS into hidden mode, but I can't figure it out. So I'm going to give up. So we'll swap over to main. And get this just out of the way. Where are you? Where's the second gray bar? You. Move. I just hate having that text there. Now it looks worse. Close enough. Ah, it's just so much cleaner. Okay. Makes me happy. All right. So today we are doing kind of tips and tricks involving accessories. So while we were at GDC, we had a couple of questions specifically and like kind of frustrations, or like, how do I do this for wrapping, like wrapping cloth and having it not move specifically on, like, let's just say the butt of a rifle, and they've just wrapped cloth around it. Oh, that reminds me. I also wanted to show a trick for wrinkles that some people do, and then they kind of figure it out. But there's another way to work around it. And I'll show you that too. It's this. So, sorry. So right now I have 3. We might have more. If you guys want to see some other like tips and tricks, specifically that you want to see, just throw them in the chat. So the first one I'm going to do is the avatar friction trick. So let's just pretend that my avatar is whatever. It's going to be any OBJ you've imported, any avatar. This can be applied to a gun, the butt of a gun, the butt of a rifle, something you're wrapping around. So let me give her some cloth wrapped around her. I'm going to do it around... Where's a good spot that will move? I'll do it around the hips. So, a lot of the time when you're wrapping something, I'm going to make this full wrap. It's going to want to shift, especially depending on how you've done it, and especially if it's like at an angle. So, this applies to inhuman as well, but I guess also human in this case. And let's turn off the arrangement points. Oops, I didn't want to see those. I don't want to see the measurements. Okay. Okay, it's still too loose. Tries to get it in place to show a good example of it not working. Okay, there we go. Control C, Control R. Let that settle itself. So if I wanted this to be much lower, you can see here on my avatar, it's sliding up. So, and this is 20 particle distance. Well, we're going to stick with the 20 particle distance for this. So I want to wrap my prop, my person, my whatever, and I just don't want it to slide. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be realistic, I just don't want it to slide. I can select my mesh, my avatar, my OBJ. So you can go to your surface settings, you go to your skin offset, you have static friction and kinetic friction. So I like to do the kinetic friction first because that's what's making it slide. Let me move this. So I can make this 1 and then specifically place on it my straps. So long as they're on the avatar, the kinetic friction is so high now that they're not going to slide around, which has been a problem for a lot of people, especially for, oh man, okay, there we go. Especially for like when you're wrapping a whole bunch of these around a gun or something. So you just increase the kinetic friction. Or the static friction, I'm sorry. Kinetic friction, sorry. Static friction is fine. If it's sliding, you increase kinetic friction. Because you saw the problem that it was earlier. Let me go back. For those of you who are new, I'll just do it again. Because this was 0.05. And it slides. It's easier to slide. Especially because it's not super tight. A lot of you like to do, another tip is a lot of you like to make these, the cloth really, really tight. And the tighter it is, the more likely it is to slip and slide around. Let me turn on the strain map so you can see. Where is it? So this is all red. Oftentimes with a lot of the Marvelous Designer cloth, a lot of Marvelous Designer users, people tend to make it really, really tight. My other tip is not to make it too tight. Marvelous Designer is very forgiving, especially with the basic fabric one. So we're going to go and do this again for those of you in case we missed it. I will do it again. I did just want to touch on, if you've made your fabric too tight, it is more likely to slide. And you're less likely to get wrinkles too. Well, there it goes. So don't make it too tight. You can also increase the width here with the shrinkage weft and warp. So left and right is weft. So you can make it 110% and it's a little less stretch. So you can see here, it's back in the blue and the green rather than in the red. So going back to what I was saying earlier, we're going to do that again so we don't miss it. 110, okay, we'll make this 100. So again, if it's really tight and it's slipping and sliding like this, the easiest way to fix it is to select what you are wrapping around your imported OBJ. Select that. In this case, this is my avatar. OBJ, FBX, it's your non-cloth item in your scene. You select that, you go to your property editor, you go to the surface. So you have skin offset, which is 3. These are all millimeters. Static friction, which is 0.8, and then kinetic friction. So kinetic friction is the movement, which is 0.05. So I just make it 1, and it won't move. It won't slide around. And I can more easily place it. Now you can see here, this is on, if it's on the cloth, it's more likely, so you can specifically adjust that too. This is collision, but I would probably just pin it or make like a seam, a little stitch there. But for wrapping on your avatar specifically, or you know, your OBJ, your whatever, just increase your friction. So you can do it to all aspects of the friction if you really want. Most of the time you're not going to walk around like this. This is going to be applying to accessories, wrapping especially. You can apply this to arms and stuff like that, but I would stabilize that a little bit more. But this is a cheat to work around that specifically for set pieces. I would not have my avatar walk like this because that I know how cloth works. It's not, this is going to slide right off of her. If she's walking, that's going to come right up. That's not how costume design works. So I would do it a different way and make it a proper skirt that fits her, that's in the blue range. If I wanted this to correctly fit her and drape like this, these would be actually pieces that fit in the specific shape that fit her body. This rule kind of only applies to accessories and like cloth wrapping. If something is sliding on your avatar, that's how you can fix it. But don't use this for a dress. Or you can. It's not going to animate well if you're going to do it. I ask you, please don't, because that's just going to cause more problems later. So I've reset her static friction and kinetic friction back to the original points. So Shurna, that is the answer to if you've created a tube top, basically. You can prevent the tube top from sliding around on her by increasing the friction. So you can use that for the tube top, but don't completely rely on the kinetic friction and the static friction to hold your garment in place if it's not constructed correctly. If you have a lot of elastic here or a lot of elastic on the body, you can get away with it. I'm like, you can't see it. If you have a lot of elastic on the body, like an elastic waistband, it helps. Black Swan, we do have the official Facebook page, but most of the time, Black Swan, it's going to be in the Discord. We are on Facebook, but we don't post a lot. If you want to talk with other users, most likely you're going to want to talk with on the Discord channel or Twitter. But Facebook is not super active because no one really interacts on Facebook much. We post the sharing images from other people and kind of announcements, but if you actually want to talk to people, you're going to want to just stick with the Discord at best. Is there a big difference between using push? I don't know what you mean by using push. I forget that there was a 30-second lag. While we're doing that, I'm going to work on the next piece. I'm going to make her a headband from scratch as my next example. Actually, I'm going to increase her kinetic friction again. And just placing that for now. So the difference between using the garment sticks to the body. That's still friction, if that's what you mean. I'm making a twisted headband right now, just so you can see. I'm waiting to see what the question is. Because I still don't get it. Oh, okay. Sounds like something that poser does, push and pull to actually move the mesh closer further from the position, mesh deformation. No, I would say probably not, because you're not actually getting it closer to the model just because of the avatar still, we didn't touch the avatar's collision distance. We just affected how friction worked on the avatar. Removing linked editing. I'm going to turn off gravity. The other tip is while you're working with stuff like this and stuff involving folding and a lot of pleats, why is okay, I'm going to do it this way. I really don't like doing it, but I need to make this my 3D window so you guys can actually see it. This is weird for me, but we're doing it backwards. My head is in the way. I'm actually doing a bandana right now. I'm actually folding a headband right now. I'm just keeping it in place with tacks. So I've turned off gravity. My tip was also turn off gravity while you're working. It will make your life easier. As you can see. This is still 20 particle distance. This will be fixed later. I'm going to do this. I'm going to flip my normals. Select. Flip my normals. Okay. And stitch. Self to self. Because I'm working on the half here. And then I'm going to do the other side. So it's a little bit easier to work while you're doing the half. So I'm doing a twisted bandana that you would have going across your forehead. Not really a bandana, but it's a, you know, cute little headband. I do want to pull this up though. And deactivate. This one's sewing. Deactivate. There's a reason I'm doing this. So I hope is this easier for you guys to see? I realize that I'm keeping because I'm keeping my thing closed and I want you to see the scene. So I'm going to start doing the bandana wrapping now. It's just the two together going across each other like this. Control C, Control D for a symmetrical linked pattern. This does not have the pins that the other one does that are pinned to the avatar, but that is fine because I'm going to remove them. not the pins. It doesn't have the tacks. Oh, it's gonna throw me off. I am not used to having to having these on the other side. Okay, so I'm deleting the tacks. This is 20 particle distance. I will have to fix this nearly immediately. So I'm sewing this together. And in this case, I'm going to be doing a pin for now, which is the W hotkey, W click, and W click. It's fine. So here's the fun part. These both need to become, I'm probably gonna do 10, if not 5 particle distance. Where'd you go? Come back here, kids. Right, I don't really need my 2D window right now. Okay, let's fix that. Come on. Okay. Come here. Where's my gizmo? Oh. Don't make me do this the hard way today. Fine, I'll do it the hard way. I think I've been running Marvelous Designer a little bit too long today, and my gizmo's hidden. I would restart, but if that happens to you, restart. All right, so you can see already this is 5 particle distance. This has strain here. So a lot of people will also do wrapping, and then they will have it start vibrating and flying apart. So this is the tip on how to get a pretty stable simulation for specifically this. I'm going to reactivate my sewing for both sides. Activate. Delete my pins because they were there to just help me out. And these are both, we're going to make these 5 particle distance now. And so I'm going to make a 5 particle, I'll see if I can break it first. There it is. Okay. You saw me break that. So 5 particle distance. I still was able to break it. Let's see if we can do it again just so you guys can see. This is a very tight here. And you can see, zoom it in, very tight, and there's 2.5 millimeters collision for each piece. So the more stress, the more likely that mesh is just going to collide through. So a tip to prevent that is get it stable enough. So there's a couple things. First of all, what I like to do is, I'm trying to think. There's a couple ways. So I'm going to give you all of the options, and then it ends up being whichever you prefer in the end and whatever works best for the project. So we know that this is super tight. You can make this less tight and then freeze it and you're done. Or, actually I'm going to do this. Let's see. This is on her head. This needs a lot of cleanup. That's fine. So 5 particle distance. It's still pretty big for this piece. But if I wanted to keep it at 5, I would be increasing my collision thickness for my cloth. So I like to make this at least 5 for both of them. So it is much larger, but come here. It's less likely to fall through itself. I'm gonna fix her headband. Oh, I still have a pin there. Come here, pin. No one wants you today. You're done. You've done your job. Take a break. Bob. Select mesh. You. Where are you? I want you. This one's trying to go above. It needs to stay below. Thank you. So I need to fix this. It's not pretty, obviously. Because I did just make it just now. As you can see, I also increased the static friction on my avatar. So I actually brought it back up. So I can bring it back down to what you would normally have. So let's do that. 0.05. So this is now more likely to slide around. This is not the prettiest thing. I'm gonna make it prettier. And reduce the length of this. Don't you dare. So, one trick, again, increase the friction. So 1. As you can see, I've made this very, very tight on her head. But you can see as I'm pulling this, compared to what it was before, this hasn't come undone. So one trick with, come here you. So that's one of the tricks to help stabilize this, is to increase the collision thickness. Another one is to subdivide. Just the part where it's colliding. So I can go to let me stop simulating. Make my life easier, I will freeze this. This is also needing to go down to 10 particle distance, because that's still 20 particle distance. I do like the friction trick, but you can't solve everything with friction. This, let me cycle around here. Let's look up her eyeball. This is still a pretty large collision distance. So it's a total of 10 with them combined. So you can start stair-stepping it until you like it. We'll give it a minute. Because I twisted this one around. I'll show you a trick for that too. But this one just needs to stop. I guess we're going to do that first because it's bothering me. So if this ends up getting twisted, there's a couple of ways to fix it. You saw me use the Select Mesh Brush tool. You can also, which is what I do a lot in my normal day-to-day life, is use the Edit Sewing tool. And I reverse the sewing repeatedly, if it'll go the right way sometimes. It's sewing to purple. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if this is happening, you can just twist it. Let me do it one more time. Reverse sewing. And then you could partial freeze, but I'm just using the pins. Deactivate sewing. Let it settle down for a second. And then I'm going to turn it back on. Because sometimes that happens. Activate, and then I'll delete the pins. Oops. Come here, you. So again, the pin hotkey is the W hotkey, and then just select. Let me reverse. Reverse, and then Clean this up and then we'll do that other trick. Deactivate. Activate. There we go. Remember to actually reverse your sewing first. But it's an easy fix. Okay. So, you can stair step this down. This is back down to 4. We're having a bit of some anger issues here. So the other trick is going to be using the select mesh tools. So I can use select mesh box, brush, lasso, whichever you prefer. If I didn't know where this was, I personally like to use the brush tool and then see it reflected in my 2D window. So for this tool, I'm selecting the areas that they're colliding in. And so here I would subdivide. So you can right click with that same tool and choose subdivide. You can do this in the 3D window as well. So this is subdividing 5. So this is down, this one area is down to 2.5 particle distance. You can do this also just by cutting, which I'll show you in a minute. But you can see here, it's a lot more stable than this one over here. Then I would freeze this. Yeah, it's a little bit. It's not sitting how the other ones were, but I mean, I didn't do this one didn't do this as well as the others. And now that this is a lower particle distance, I can bring this back down to 2.5. Mesh, 2.5 collision thickness. But you do end up getting a lot of the dense mesh right there. So it depends on what your outcome that you want is, but you do have a lot of options with depending on how you want it to work. So interesting how one of them turned out really pretty, but then the other one is like, listen, I'm not gonna do it this way. But like, whatever. I mean, that's how the nature of these headbands go, though. I have a couple of them. They're just like one side is flat. And she still has her collision thickness, so you'd stair step this down at the end. Looking right into that eyelash. And then the other trick is, this also applies with knots. Let's just say I loved how this looked. We'll do that last. So the other trick is I'm going to delete subdivision, bring back my collision thickness just for the sake of this. If you didn't want to use that or you didn't want to work that way, you can use the other method, which is to basically chop up your pattern and then bring down the particle distance. So another way to work would be to use the internal line. And it's the same thing as what I did with the select mesh brush, except for I am chopping this up. Choosing cut and sew, and then I can make this piece like, let's just say 3 particle distance. These are symmetrically linked, so it is applying to both. And then I can apply the lower collision thickness to this piece. And keep this back down to the 2.5, because they're not colliding with each other. But this one I can do 4. I can try 3 again. You can also see here that there's not as much strain. We can go back to the 2.5. Let's see. Since there is much less strain on here, I still have the strain map turned on, but it's easier to see this way. The strain is what's going to cause this to happen, because the friction also is helping keep it in place and keep it from pulling too hard. I'm going to turn these on just to make it more difficult on all of us. And to apply more strain. But as you can see here with my strain map on, it's not in the red. Oh, it's a little bit. You can see it here, but that's fine. I would freeze these pieces now. Like, they're stable enough. I don't want them to move. I would just freeze them. And I would keep working with the rest of my pieces. If you're doing a lot of things like this, you're doing a lot of knots, I would freeze this. It doesn't need to move anymore. It's stable enough to go. I would just stick with this. Let's, can I do both? I can't do both. I'm going to turn off the strain map because I can't do both. But to help stabilize the knots, it's keep an eye on your strain. If it's too hard, give it some slack. It reduce your particle distance and increase your collision thickness depending on what you want to do. And then another trick is this knot works well for me. This is everything I want. Let's just say that I love this knot. I'm gonna want to use something like this later. I would export this piece specifically as a collection of knots. So I could go file. I'm gonna do it as a garment. So save as garment, desktop, whatever. Where is it? Stream files. If let's just say I had a reusable asset folder, new folder. I always encourage everyone to do this, by the way, reusable. Keep your assets. If you've made a knot that's been successful, freeze the knot in place. Save it as a garment. I'm going to call this one wrap 1. And I'm going to save that because now I know that that's pretty stable. That's worked out well. I can use that in another project maybe. If I'm wrapping around something else, I can use this. This applies to knots. This applies to ties. Save your assets. This applies to pockets. The pocket tutorial in the beginning of our YouTube channel, pockets. You save them as a garment. You can save the garment sewn to a square, for example. I guess I'll do that next. I'll show you that trick. But there's a little headband. And then I save this. I think that is all of the tricks that I was thinking for the headband. So next, let's go to the, goodbye. But see, her head's gone, but the knot's still there. Goodbye. But you can keep it this way, and it's not going to move. It's not going to shift. Whee! Okay. I'm gonna go back. I can't go back, can I? Oh. I don't like having this on the left. It's so weird to me. Alright, so the other trick with when you're working in Marvelous Designer is making your assets reusable. You saw the trick I just gave everybody for the knot. It's the same thing's gonna apply to other pieces. We have our, trying to think if we have it. This is basically going to be the same thing I say in the pocket tutorial. So let's make a pocket. For those of you who don't know, again, gravity is off. Remember that. If you're doing pleats, turn off your gravity. But for pockets, let's make a pocket. We're making one pocket. So I'm going to make a square. This is a giant pocket. How big is this? We'll do it this way. I don't want it to be too big because I want to keep it accurate. 500, we're going to do 100 and 100. Okay, because a pocket is relatively small. So I'm working in millimeters, so 12.5 millimeters is a half an inch. So we're gonna swap around my hotkeys. I keep pressing the wrong. I am not used to having this on this side. Okay. So let's just say this is exactly where I want my pocket to go. It's going to be a square pocket, and we're going to have this be a pleated pocket that has a 1/2 inch edge. So, making a pocket, I'm right-clicking and cloning his pattern. I could have done it on the 1/2, but whatever. I'm going to split this down the center because I want to work on the 1/2. Split. Uniform. Alright. I'm not going to unfold this symmetrically yet. So first things first is I'm going to be making this into a box pleat, so it's a cargo pocket. So it's going to have a pleat. We're making this real fun. So I'm offsetting his pattern outline, unified, and creating internal lines. So I'm going to need 2. Yes, I'm going to need 2. And let's do 10 millimeters for each one. And then I'm going to apply my pleat fold. Normally I would do a box pleat, but there's no other side to it yet. So let's make the box pleat first. Unfold with symmetrical editing. And then with the pleat, I am going to sew it together. So I'm going to sew this first. I'm going to freeze this. Control K, Control H to help support my pleat. Hi Vanessa. There's my pleat. I just hit simulate and it's flying away. Come back. Don't run. If you don't want it to go this direction, you can just reverse the direction of your pleat with your pleat fold tool. So you just hit reverse direction. Okay. I'm gonna freeze this before, or give it a pin before it goes the other direction though. Pop. There we go. If I wanted this to be an inverted box pleat, here we go. It's beautiful. That is such a small particle distance. 10. There we are. You're not too late. Don't forget, we also have, I just showed some tips and tricks. You'll see it later too. So right now I'm showing them how to do pockets, but also show you how to kind of save pieces that you've made to be reusable assets. So we've just done an inverted pleat, an inverted box pleat. It's so small, but that's okay, whatever. The reason that I didn't add the rest of the pocket yet, so I'm going to do an offset on the other sides, is because it's an easier visual for everybody if I do it this way. Because I don't need these pieces to have that extension going down and around to create the pocket. But I do want to sew them together, so let's go ahead and sew them together using the N hotkey. I can also do this in the 3D window. Sometimes it's easier for some people. This one I'm going to have to freehand, so M. And just think like you're sewing a corner. B. Turned. Come here, you. Don't run away. And you've made a windmill. Something's overlapped. What are you doing? Oh, that's why. Okay. Close that. I'm just going to do it this freehand. Pop. You want to sew from corner to corner. My particle distance is pretty low. I could have made this pocket a bit bigger. And this is all warbly because of the fold. Custom angle, turned. There you go. Now it's stable. Always make your turned angles stable. Like if they're supposed to be flat against each other, make them turned. Otherwise it'll try to do other stuff like dancing. Alright. Now that that's sewn together, I'm going to ignore the top piece. I don't really need it to be sewn together. I do want to create the edges for my pocket, so I'm going to do that. Same way I did the offset for the box pleat. So offset is pattern outline. I don't need 2 of them. I only need 1. We'll do a 1/2 inch. So 12.5. I made this pocket really small. That's fine. 1/2 inch, we'll do 3/8, which is, I'm just going to do 9 millimeters. I'm doing this all from memory, so if my math is wrong, well, it's a little small. But you can always scale your pocket back up. And then sew your pocket together. So this is where you do need to make one fix. So because I did extend that line that had the sewing relationship, normally, intuitively, it would help with the growth. But in this case, it's not. So I just need to take this and remove it and then apply it to that internal line with the free sewing tool. Another tip for those of you who are new with the free sewing tool, I sew the limited line first, so I know exactly where I'm ending, so I can use my reference point here to stop. So here's that beautiful pocket. It doesn't have any turned angles though. How would I fix that? To get it to stand out, I just need to, oh, it's the wrong window. I'm so used to having the 3D window on the other side. You can do 2 options. You can use the fold arrangement tool here. Just do it by hand. It's going to end up being 90 degrees. It's a 90-degree angle. You can also do that in the 2D window by making it a 90-degree angle. It's beautiful. But let's sew this onto the pocket, right? This is supposed to become a pocket. So it's going to be the edges. Okay. I made this a pretty small pocket, but you can always make it bigger. So I'm just using the segment sewing tool. And here I'll just do it the freehand. Grab and move. You can see here this has that curved edge. It's because of my sewing relationship, because I didn't fix that. This is also very small. So again, 90, and I can get a square. Or another way to do this is to just make this whole piece into one long rectangle. Well, my head blocks a lot of the 3D window. That's the only reason I swapped my workspace. I can easily swap it back, but I feel like my head blocks the window. It blocks it when I have like a human here and like I block the entire lower torso. Anyway, so remove strengthening. Figure your life out. Fine. I did make this a little small, so I'm just going to make it bigger. Come on. Where'd you go? Oh, wrong side. Come here. He's angry. Did I flip my normals by doing that? I definitely did. There we go. All right. I also just scaled it up. It doesn't block. I think it does when it's a human, because I'll do like stuff on a skirt and my skirt's down, like my head's blocking the skirt. All right, so I need to sew that bottom part. Bop and bop. I like to leave this open, but that's my preference. Oh. Now that I'm done, let's add some gravity. Much better. So you can, oops. So you can leave this as it is. I can actually bring this back up now. You can keep it strong, you can keep it stable like this while you're working. Let's give it a pocket flap. I'm gonna do it the other way. Internal polygon. I'm right-clicking by doing this, and I'm selecting mirror creation. I don't normally like to do it this way, but it is another tool you can use that not a lot of people do use because it's relatively new. I'm making a different shape pocket flap. I do want this to be a little bit closer, centered. And again, clone as pattern, throw it up here. I'm just free sewing. And then right click, superimpose over. And then I definitely don't want it to be over or underneath the pocket. So I can just do it that way. And make this 10 just to match, just for the sake of this. So here's where you can do a couple of things. So if you wanted this to be more detailed, I would put an internal line here. I'd split this. Uniform split, yes. You can do it by eyeball if you want. I just do a small line here. And then make it go a bit inward so that I can work with this. Just because I like to collapse it a little bit more. You don't have to go all the way down, as well as with a fold. Let's see. You can reduce the fold strength or the fold angle. You can also turn off fold rendering. Oops. I turned everything backwards, I guess. So fold rendering reduces the crispness of your fold. So let me do that again while you can see it. Turn on. Select the line. So fold rendering, it's a much crisper. And then if I turn it off, there's my gizmo. If I turn it off, it's less severe, which is another kind of trick. I think someone was talking about folding a collar in the Discord and removing a line. If you have an internal line, you can hide that with like the fold a little bit. It does help. And then this is still all the basic fabric, so here's where you would want to do other materials if you really wanted. I'm just gonna pop this all the way down. You can apply it underneath if you wanted. I wouldn't. Here's where you can start kind of creating that pocket of yours. But let's just say you're done. Let's make a finished pocket. I will apply a button to this. I can apply it directly to the center. I'm eyeballing this. That's a giant button. This is a very small pocket. But whatever. Make my button smaller. We'll pretend it's not terribly large. We're going to pretend I made it the right size, everybody. And then I'm going to put a buttonhole on here. Then go to my buttonhole and make that smaller too. I'm making it half the size, width 23. Buttonholes are almost always a little bit larger than the buttons because there needs to be a little bit of space for it to go through. So it's 10, I'll make it 11. In real life, they're always larger. That is why the buttonhole is larger in Marvelous Designer. And then I will have my button go through my buttonhole. I just added, here it is. Fasten button, bop and bop. So I am working on a very small pocket. There we go. So we're going to pretend that this is done, this is perfect, this is everything I've ever wanted in my life. Reduce that. Okay. Like I would want to use this on a pair of pants, let's just say. So I'm going to go ahead and save out my pocket. File, save as. I generally recommend everyone save things twice because sometimes you accidentally delete them. So, all right. I'm saving this as pocket 1. And now it's done. So I've already saved this. I'll show you how I like to work with it as a reusable piece. Then save the asset. Yep. I save it as pocket 1. I can also just apply this to my library too, for example. So you can add your, in your favorites, you can add. So if I go to stream files and reusable, I can select that folder and bring it in. And there's my pocket and my rat. I can have them categorized very differently if I wanted, but I only have 2 right now. So let's go ahead and remove all of this. And there's a reason why I saved it as a sewn relationship. So let's open another garment. Let's open this pair of pants. And let's grab a avatar that fit these pants. And that's basically your assets saved. I'll just show you how you can easily do it. No. Perfect. He's backward. I don't know how I made it backwards, but all right. So going back to my library, going back to that reusable, I can bring in my pocket now. So add to workspace, right click, add to workspace. Make sure it's on add, not open. No, don't save anything. Flip it around so it's not backwards. It's so tiny. I made it so small. That's really funny. Well, whatever. You can always scale these up pretty easy. So I do want to put these on my pants. He's going to have the tiniest little cargo pants that ever cargo pantsed. So, because it's already simulated, I'm going to make a copy and a paste. And then the cool and important part is your internal lines. Let me move this back. Is you also want to do the same thing with your internal lines. Select. Pattern outlines. Give me my internal lines. Thank you. Unlock. And we'll put them on the pants. Control V. They're so tiny. He's so small. Look at that little pocket. All right. I'm gonna be a rebel and make it bigger. Lock my pattern outlines. Come here, you. Unlock pattern outlines. Grab my packet. Come here. All right. That should be a little better. Where are you at? Normally, you would save it at the correct size. Then it wouldn't have this warble. It wouldn't be angry like it is right now. Let's just say you didn't do it right. You know, this is an example of what not to do, but it'll still be stable enough to function. Normally, you would save it at the correct size. Here's actually a good example. Once you've done your pocket and it's no longer in the scene, you do, another tip is to remove the linked editing across. Because now it's trying to sew to the linked editing on the pants, which normally it's intuitive and it's convenient. But in this case, it's not. And it would try to sew the pants together. Boop. All right. And then We're going to freeze everything but these two, just to make this a little easier. Keep hitting that Windows key. So, as you can see, because I scaled it like that, you can fix it just by selecting the mesh. Honestly, you're selecting these corners. What's happening is I need to select this, and this comes out. Same with this one. And this comes out. Because I ruined the box pleat by doing that. Alright, there we go. Or I made it inverted. Let's give it a... There we go. And fasten the button back through. Come here, you. Just pulls it over. Just yep. There we are. And now I could make the button bigger. Let's reduce this one. I could put something in there as well if I really, really wanted. I'd pray if you wanted to actually have an item in here, you could give it shape. You also don't have to. And library, we're going to go back to the property window. And we can bring this down to 5 particle distance. There you go. There's my bag. And that is how I was able to easily reuse an asset that I also made far too small. Now you can't see anything. And I was able to resize it relatively quickly. So if you've made a pocket before, definitely save the pocket if you can. And then you can use it elsewhere. There's his beautiful cargo pocket. And then his super tiny little patch pocket for his t-shirts. Let's see. What else? I know it's accessories, so I can't do shirts right now. Let's see. What else do we want to do? Let me check my list. Headband, knots, wrinkles, accessories. People wanted to see more accessories. We do have 45 more minutes-ish. I need my coffee. Chat, what else would you like to see specifically for accessories? Because the problem is it's accessories, not clothing items. Well, we could... oh, let me delete him. It's like, I could make another bag, but I made a bag one of the recent streams. Let's see. So, what were the other things that people were complaining about for wrinkles? Oh, yes, now I remember. Okay, so someone actually showed me that they did wrinkles and they brought in the OBJ and then they kind of tacked it to the OBJ. So I'm going to show you how to easily make wrinkles in Marvelous Designer. But we're going to do it in like a funky shape because, you know, that's what you want. We're going to do this an easy way. All right. Here's my giant piece. Let's just say I brought a weapon in and I wanted to have like wrinkles going up and down. I would, number one, convert the pleated pocket pattern to a handbag. Ah, it's a good idea. Maybe I can do that next. So let's just say you're trying to trace a surface to apply wrinkles to it. Like cloth that is sort of sewn into place, but it's not fit well or it had to be eased into it, so it's got wrinkles going like horizontally or vertically, whatever. So I'm not going to do it, but I'm going to show you. We're going to pretend that this is my flat surface that, I'm going to do it this way actually. Bop. So this here is my funky shape, and I want to apply cloth to it. I want to apply cloth to the interior. So I've sculpted this weapon, let's just say, and there needs to be cloth in between these pieces, right? Oops. So what you would do, first of all, is you would use, I'm actually going to do it this way. I took a step further. So we're going to pretend that this is an OBJ, and you go up to the tools. I think, Sharna, if you're still here, you go up to the drawing tools in 3D. You can go to the edit tools. So if this was an OBJ or an avatar, an imported item that's not a cloth item in Marvelous Designer, you would use the line avatar tool. Here you can actually draw on your avatar and trace a specific surface. So I would use that here if this was an avatar. It's not, so we're going to pretend I'm doing that with the line 3D pattern tool. So you draw on, so you would first draw this shape and create a cloth version of the wrinkles you wanted on that OBJ. And then you would trace or draw out where you want it to be by hand with the drawing tool, the 3D line pattern tool. So you're drawing on the cloth in 3D. I can't interact with it in the 2D window, but I can make it so I can do that by selecting those lines that I've created. I can choose cut and sew immediately, but if I didn't do it perfectly, I always say convert to internal shape, so I can then make changes and fix it in my 3D window. So this piece here, I want this to be a specific, I want this to be wrinkles and this to be not. It's sewing into this piece, let's just say. So these pieces will be rigid and the interior will have that wrinkle. Cut and sew. And I'm moving them away in the 2D window, but I'm not going to move them in the 3D window. In fact, I'm going to freeze them. And then this will be working in between. So what I have seen some people do is a way, I'm going to deactivate all of the sewing for this piece, and then we're going to get to it. Deactivate sewing, and I'm also going to deactivate this pattern. So what some people have done is they think they can just get away with just creating a rectangle that's longer and sewing it in. You can. It might not turn out the way you think. And we'll take a look, because there's a couple of things that happen with that. I'm going to right click. In this case, this is such a large piece. I'm right clicking and I guess I can't for some reason. Why am I not able to superimpose? It's correct. Normally I can superimpose, but whatever. I think it's because I have multiple things in the scene. I think it's because of this guy. But it can't go around a corner. It's not going to be specific to that corner, but it'll get me these. Let me make this tighter. There we go. So if you want to get wrinkles, what a lot of people end up doing is they'll try this. I mean, this works. This does work with just a rectangle, but it's not going to be fitting this space as if it was sewn in and potentially like sort of fits, but almost doesn't. You can get away with this. This is 20 particle distance. This is a big example. That's fine. To get wrinkles like this, you do want it to be smaller, as you can see. Smaller than the actual pieces it's sewing into, so it will pull. And then you want it to be longer than the pieces it's sewing into. So you can get this look, or delete it. This one fits perfectly, but it does need some change. So what you can do is, well, I'll show you two ways. You can resize it by just stretching it out. Then I'll activate all of this. Yeah, it's because of this one. Superimpose side. And it fits a little bit better. It's not perfect because it didn't go, didn't fit this sewing direction. So you can see here it's a bit too long. It's wider and it's sagging. So this fits perfectly. Let's make it a little bit smaller horizontally. But I'm still having this problem here. So there's a couple of ways to get to the same result. But the best way is to slightly change it. Oh, let's go Control Y. There we go. Okay. Right click, activate. Okay. Make sure it sews. Oh, it's that was really funny. Sews perfectly into place. Yay. Well, how do we want to do this? So we do want this piece to have the wrinkles going this way. And we want this one to have the wrinkles going this way. So we know I want this to be wider and narrower. This has no curve points. Delete all curve points. I do want this to be narrower. So I've got my wrinkles now for this. Let's bring this down to 10 just so we can get some nice pretty wrinkles for now. This would obviously be on something much smaller. But this is just a good big example. But this one, I want my wrinkles to go this way now. So it's the same concept. I'm just doing it in the direction I want my wrinkles to go. So I do know that I need this to be smaller. And I also need this to be longer. Probably smaller here too. Let's see if I can find that. This might need to be even narrower. And longer. Fine, come here. This needs more length. It's kind of ugly, but it's a good example. Oh, I broke it. We'll give it a second. It's a lot in the scene and it's 10 particle distance. I think I know why it wasn't showing me a minute ago. There we go. There it is. I was like, why wasn't it working? I was calculating it. But you can also increase the wrinkles here. Basically, you have what you need to do is have the original pattern piece and then start changing that. So if you know exactly the shape it's supposed to sew into, start sewing it into it wrong, if that makes sense. So this is now going to be more curved, and we're going to get more wrinkles right here. So you can see the difference in the 2D window of getting, this is very consistent, but you've pulled it out in the direction that you want your wrinkles to go. So to affect the direction of your wrinkles, let me just summarize this here. This works really well for prop pieces, things like this. This is just a severe example. You can do this just on a much smaller scale. Much like pleating, you can see here, much like pleating, much like gathering, this is about 2 times the length, if not 3. You want to go twice the width. You want to go twice as long in the direction you want, in the counter direction you want the wrinkles to go. So the way I got these vertical wrinkles was that I made it longer horizontally, so there's more give side to side, which allows for the wrinkles to form, which is how wrinkles form more often, because it's gathering in, and it's smaller, so it's pulling up and down, causing the wrinkles to form in the gaps. And that is how you can engineer your wrinkles in that way. As you can see here, this piece has it in the corners, and that's because I smoothed out the corners. So we can look at this again, because these fit perfectly together before, and now they don't. But we have a lot of wrinkles now. So that is another trick, especially for pieces that have inflation, that have cloth on them for whatever reason. This is obviously a very severe example. Yeah, I was wondering what was going on. It just wasn't calculating it, which is funny. But the less I do, the less severe they are, the closer I get to the original. Hi, Fredo. So, you know, that was a severe example, but here's another one. You can also apply this by how your sewing relationships work. If I wanted this piece to be more around this corner, I can move my seam line back, and I move this green one closer. And so I've pulled this way. So let's go the opposite. Bop. I can just pull the direction. You can also evenly distribute everything. So with the free sewing tool, so the segment sewing tool is great, but do remember how it's going to distribute your sewing. This one is now evenly distributed across all of it, which is good and bad. It depends on what you want. It depends on the outcome you would intending. So I'm going to do that with this side as well. And it's going to give me different wrinkles, because now it's all evenly distributed. I can no longer... So this is, I guess, about wrinkles and kind of engineering them. I can no longer adjust where my wrinkles are within this. So it is nice to have segment sewing, because you can always adjust it as you're working. And this is how you can engineer your wrinkles, because now I've fully changed this. So using the edit sewing tool, I can just full on go like this. I don't want to overlap them because it causes a bit of a problem later. Ignore the blue ghost in this case. But see, I can now start engineering the direction where these wrinkles are going. So the smaller the space it's sewing into, so keep an eye on your ratio. So what's happening is this is going to have less wrinkles because it's sewing into a similar shape and size. So I'm just moving these around, and I can engineer the direction of these wrinkles based on how it's fitting. So you can specifically just move these around here. So if I wanted specifically this corner to be here, I can kind of eyeball that. So now I'm aiming at this corner. All of this is sewing into that. Yep, this is a great way to get a bunch of details on sci-fi suits. So just remember, they're not supposed to fit if you've made them. If you get wrinkles like this, it's because they're not fitting exactly how they should. So you can engineer that once you figure that out, which just comes back to my telling everyone all the time, get something to fit first and then start styling it and designing it. So if you have a perfectly fit bodysuit and then you start wanting to have wrinkles, make the bodysuit first, then apply it afterwards. Because then you can start changing things around, adjusting the fit, and adjusting it to not fit right, for example. I'm going to do one last example down here, and then I'm going to move on. Because this will sew into a smaller piece, and then pop, because this is in a different direction. So now this is all sewing into here. Most of the gathering is now here, because this is almost the same width. Awesome. So now I'm adding more ease, and now I have that. Because previously this was about the same width here, but now it's a little bit more. And you can also see it's smaller. Because if this was originally the same size, I would have less wrinkles. Because it's pulling on it. I'm trying to see. Kind of just like here. Up here is very similar in size, so it doesn't have as many wrinkles. Even though that's the sewing relationship is off by 97 millimeters, but this one's only 50. It's quite a large object in the scene. Yes, what Rosemary is saying, this does only work when they're frozen in place. So let's just say you watch my, I think it's one of the first streams, which is the spacesuit stream. I would honestly put this on top of what's already in the scene. Because it will affect the fit. But this is a great example for if you're doing something on a prop specifically. For not clothing, this is great for props, for wrapping, for having cloth bags, you know, space cloth, magical cloth, spacesuit cloth that's on, you know, shipping containers out in space. It's a good example. And last but not least, let's just play with the Rosemary's recommendation, which was turning that pocket into a little bag, a little handbag. So I'm bringing that pocket that I made earlier into my scene, so add to workspace. Yep, just like Rosemary said, fine detail just before exporting. So we can turn this into a bag, convert this into a handbag. Let's convert this into a clutch. I no longer need that sewing relationship. I can keep the back, actually. I'm making this into a clutch now. Do I want that? I'll keep it. But I need to change some things. I'm going to turn this into a handbag, but first of all, I need to get this sewn into the right location. So I'm going to... I'll just free sew it. So I've now sewn this. Whoops, where are we? I'm going to sew this into a handbag because there was no other ideas. So I'm actually going to use this as the back of the bag. Cut and sew. Well, I should have just done cut. Goodbye. Oops. What are you sewn to? Oh, you're sewn to the wrong one. Whatever. So I'm turning this into a bag. I'm just creating the sewing relationship first. And then sewing this into place. This is not the same width. That is totally fine. But if I do want to make it the same width, there is a trick. So, do it this way. This is now the exact same width, so I have my little ghost. I can right-click, add point to patterns to pattern on start. So the start is where that little line is. So now there's a little point there. So I know that that is where my pattern starts. So I can now resize this, or I can also just delete it. Delete this and this one. Try to keep my pocket in the middle as much as I can. Or my little, pocket. My buttonhole. Okay, there you go. There we go. He's so perfect. It's beautiful. I'm gonna keep working with everything strengthened, just for my own peace of mind. And oops, don't want to do that. Convert to curve point. Still really small pocket. So let's actually fix this. More. Yay, it's bigger. I'm trying to have press keys shown, and I try to do that. I can't do that on this. Okay, I can, but it completely covers the entire screen. I want to have them shown. If there is a better one, the only one I have covers the entire lower half of the screen, unfortunately. So I try to say what I'm doing. So if I'm doing a lot of these, I'm not doing too many hotkeys. If I'm sewing, I'm using all the sewing hotkeys, which is M and N. I try to call it out, but unfortunately I'm gonna have to say no to have keys pressed, because the only way I can do it is to have a full keyboard. There is nothing that is an option to have just whatever keys shown. The only way we can do that is if it's in post, unfortunately. Unless someone wants to make me a magical tool that does it. I've tried. I have tried. it'll just have a keyboard, just like the full lower half of my screen, and I can't. It's just you can't even see what's happening at that point. I wish I could. I have tried. Because the thing is that, like, Blender has that, but it's native to Blender. And so I have to use, like, I'm using OBS. There it is. So I'm just going to remove these buttonholes. And turn the angle on here. But I try to call it out, Sherna. Though I'm still going to tell you to watch our tutorials, because I call them out and we actually have visuals on the actual full tutorials of them in the beginner tutorial series. Because I do try to call out, like, if I'm doing this, it's Control H. Is gravity off still? No, it's on. I hit the H hotkey by doing that. This is so tiny. Whatever, it's a little kid's purse. We'll add a strap. Yeah, Blender's the only one that actually has, like, where they have it shown, but it only appears, like, in the middle. But that's because it's Blender. They have that in Blender, not an OBS feature, unfortunately. I mean, if there is one, get me that keyboard, because I've got like 8 keyboards, but I don't have that. Like, send it my way. Woo. If you can't tell, I've tried. I've tried so much. All right. We're gonna do easy straps. I did turn off Twitch emotes only, right? Because reminds me. Stream manager. Okay, it is not emote only, chat. Okay, good. And these are so tiny. It's so small. I guess I've made a really tiny bag. For this tiny bag, I do want to just remove this and the bonus segment point. Control C, Control D. And then I'm using the segment sewing tool, which is the N hotkey. And then selecting both of these with, you know, shift select. And choosing superimpose side. Yay. Oh, the button's still there. Button, what are you doing? Did I make the button weight insanely heavy by accident? What? Let's see. Delete unused. What? Hello? Alright. That was weird. You can add weights to your buttons. Oh yeah, this is very, very low, high particle distance for this piece. 10. There we go. Okay, let's grab an avatar and put it in the scene. We'll give this to Hannah. Hannah, here's your bag. Take your tiny bag. It's so tiny. It's a baby bag. Come here. Maybe we can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. And I'm gonna make this longer. I'm gonna hide her hair. Deactivate. No. Fine, delete hair. Control K to turn off the frozen. Control H. There we go. Let's just, there's that. There we go. We turned a pocket into a quick little bag. The back panel is unfrozen. Whee! It's very elasticy because the base default fabric is very forgiving and very elastic. And we'll give Hannah her hair back. Blue. Pull that out of the hair. Okay. Okay. So there's our little bag. That was a pocket before, and as you saw, it's square, so it's a little bit easier to resize everything. Because sometimes, as some of you have seen, it's not perfect. Oh, I'm gonna reflect this. Flip my normal. I'm gonna keep all my flip normals on the inside if I can. And I'm going to clean up my corners. Let me go to my property editor. Wrong thing, I didn't want it up there. I want my fold line, so edit pattern tool, select that line. This line. Or my sewing. I think it's the sewing. 90. Yeah. So I'm using the B hotkey to select that sewing line and make it 90 degrees. So I have a nice square at the bottom. Form a bag for Hannah. So we turned the pocket into a the pocket bag into a bigger bag. Let's see. So again, while you're working, another tip is make sure to add to your workspace, not open, because then you'll close everything you've worked on. And let's just say you set your bag on your avatar and you want to put it over her clothes. If most of this is fine, just select, with your transform tool, select what you, select the bag. I want to select inverted, so I'm going to invert my selection. Control K to freeze it, because I don't need to simulate any of that. Select my bag. Go to my property editor, make it layer 1, and simulate my bag. What material? This is the basic this is the fabric one. So right now this has no actual cloth properties, except for the very stretchy, here it is. The very stretchy, oh my gosh, okay, stop simulating. Fabric. It has the very stretchy fabric one. This is that default fabric that's a little too forgiving, just so you know. Yeah, so I have default plus strengthening on all of this. I can do Control H to deflate it. I just keep Control H on to keep pleats crisp while I'm working, and once I'm done, then I can start kind of sculpting it into the look I'm looking for. Control A, Control K. So unfreeze it all. Let's apply leather lambskin. Oops. Not to everything. Okay, good. I'll apply a copy of the leather lambskin to this bag. Make a copy. Change its color. Just so we have a bright color here. we have a coral bag here. I'll give that a minute, because this is all very dense mesh as well. Everything else but the bag. And I think that's it for the tips and tricks that were specifically requested. I'm gonna Control Z. Yeah, we'll stick with the coral. I just use Control H, which is the strengthening hotkey. You can right click everything to strengthen. So if you see anything orange, it's strengthened, which is Control H. So we did cover increasing the friction for Avatar for wrapping, so that'll work for a lot of cloth wrapped around weapons or wrapped around items. We did increase and show you guys some tips and tricks for knots and kind of stabilizing cloth that's tightly wrapped around itself, and creating custom wrinkles, which is very similar to gathering, which hopefully someone on the Discord was just asking that exact question, that they will come and see the tutorial instead. And then we turned a pocket and reused that asset and turned that into a bag, as we saw here. So I'm going to share the resource list one more time. If anyone has any other questions, do let me know while I am copy pasting my list here. So again, here's a link to our Discord channel and to our website where you can get our software. And you can always get the 30-day free trial. And bop. Here's a link for those of you who are on Twitch. This will expire after whenever Twitch decides to delete it. So this will be kept on our official YouTube channel, also called Marvelous Designer. Just in perpetuity, it'll be there until maybe someday in the future, you know, it doesn't make any sense. But we also have our tutorials here on YouTube. They are the best recommended tutorials. They're a little older. They're from the older UI because we did just change the UI, but they're still applicable concepts that will get you started working efficiently and effectively in Marvelous Designer. And last but not least, if you are having technical difficulties with your account, if you think you found a bug, please let us know via the support/contact tab on our website. It does ask for you to log in, but it makes it a little bit faster of a process. So we're not asking your login information, because that will always be the first thing that's asked if you don't do it via the tab. So that finishes it for, I guess, this quick tip stream. Did you guys have any other tips? We do have we have like 10 minutes left. Otherwise, trying to think of anything else for like little tips for accessories. Oh yeah, you guys were talking earlier about straps. Take a look at Hannah's base outfit, because this is basically what happens in real life. In the Discord, someone was talking about straps for a t-shirt and kind of how the patterning works to stabilize it. You can do it this way. Because this would be like the bias binding or the ribbing that would be used. Bra banding detail. What is the presets for you? Yeah, so there's actually, this one's using the ribbing texture. So you can do it this way as well. Just the thinner the material, the stretchier it's going to be. So, for example, seam taping, I'm going to just show you. If you need to stabilize a seam and prevent it from stretching, you can apply seam taping to a line, and it just applies a bar of, we'll figure that out. It applies a measured, you can change the width of it, amount of stabilizer, or in this case it's in the bonding tab. Is it easy to make a shoe or sole in Marvelous Designer? I mean, I have 2 streams of how to make shoes in Marvelous Designer, but Marvelous Designer does not have the same feature that Clo does, that lets you assign to the Marvelous Designer avatars the ability to put the shoe on the avatar. Because Marvelous Designer avatars, you're not really supposed to use them for any other like projects other than your own learning, just so you know. So like you can't publish anything really with our avatars, so kind of why. But I mean, I have 2 videos on YouTube on how to make shoes in Marvelous Designer. Other software was considered. I don't know how you make shoes in other software. Honestly, it depends on what you're doing. Most of the time, people are going to be applying the shoes to their avatar and sculpting them on the avatar, and then animating that as part of their avatar. So whatever's faster for you. If you love making shoes and you're really fast at making shoes in whatever software, do it in that software. Because Marvelous Designer is going to require you to know how to make shoes and how shoes are made. So if you don't know that there's insoles, inner soles, the darts that are required and or hidden, it would probably be easier to sculpt a shoe in another software, because you cannot assign them in Marvelous Designer. But that is it for the stream. I thank you all so much for joining us, and thank you for those of you who stopped by at GDC. Hopefully we'll have a stream next weekend. Not next week, maybe the week after. Because we're back on our normal stream schedule. So hopefully the 13th we will see. But thank you all so much for joining us. I will be on the Discord moderating. I hope that answered some of your questions, especially involving cloth slipping, because we were discussing that earlier. But that is it, and I will start making the thumbnail for this right afterwards. So thank you again for joining us, and have a good rest of your day. I will